let me say something about the challenge of inculturation of Schoenstatt into the Indian culture through institutions. Schoenstatt, in essence, is a movement. Therefore, our main thrust is to have many lay people, to form them, to inspire them, to let them be apostles. So it's more a thing which is not so much institutional, but much more movement. On the other hand, I believe it's also necessary that sometimes the Schoenstatt spirituality expresses itself in institutions. I would like to mention three, which are of particular interest, I would say, for the Indian situation. The first one is retreat centers. Our church in India is typically marked by parish and by such retreat centers or pilgrimage centers. Now, pilgrimage center is something which is very close to us anyways, but also by retreat centers. What about us? I would say certainly and definitely we also can have retreat centers, although I personally would not call them retreat centers. I would call them formation centers. In formation centers, the element and aspect of retreat is included. Also, I would say it's included the element of having a retreat for masses, for greater groups. Why not? Can be just as well as possible that we have parish retreat for all parish and so forth. That all can be done. Only we would have to introduce our own particular accents. If we would make retreat, and we make retreat also in larger numbers, the aspect of personal formation and the aspect of self-education, or with other words, the aspect of my contribution to what grace does, always would have to be present. Therefore, it can never be only a retreat which only emphasizes on the supernatural reality and only on spiritual experiences. It always would have to be an aspect of pedagogical dimension. And that, of course, would require immediately that whenever we exercise such retreats, that the possibility for personal guidance and the possibility for personal counseling should be given. All our retreat masters should be just as well fit to be spiritually counseling, so that the people in their personal, individual need and interest will come. I would also therefore carefully say, without criticizing, that these mass retreats, as it goes on, probably sooner or later will not be too effective anymore, because people develop personal questions and personal problems, which already in divine retreat centers you notice it, that this is coming, that most people come to come because they want to have a solution for their personal problems, for their marriage, for whatever you have. And therefore the thrust would be there. And this is why I would call our centers formation centers. And why our formation centers would not only offer retreat, they also offer retreat, but they also should offer small units of personal training, you know, like you have it in social pedagogical courses and things like that, where much more is personalized. This is more effort. It's not so wide in effect because it doesn't catch so many people, but in the long run, I believe it will be the more effective thing. So far to retreat centers. Let me say something to educational institutions, means schools. I would say it would be very appropriate, if not to say necessary, that we also have schools, especially in a country like this, without question of education, without question of lifting up the standard of knowledge, especially under the lower sections, but everywhere is a must. It's a necessity. See? And therefore, we should have such institutions also in order to reach non-Christians. In a country where Christianity has such a low percentage of population, we'd have to do something to reach beyond that with our spirituality. However, and there is the question of inculturation, I believe we should not have any school which has not a special emphasis on personal formation. That means our schools have to have a twofold focus. The one is academic competence. Good teachers, good grades, good results. The other one is formation of the people. Taking care of them personally. That is necessary. Therefore, if we would have a school, I would say this school necessarily in their curriculum would have to have subjects like Christian anthropology, Christian ethics. That such a school, if it's big enough, would have to have one of our as a school counselor where everybody can go to with problems, helps. That our school would be a school, if it's a local school, that has and emphasizes cooperation with the parents. That the parents are included in the process, because it's not only formation, and the parents cannot only delegate the children in their whole education to the institution, but the parents have to be brought to responsibility, take care of the children just as well as the school does. This, I would say, is a typical aspect of inculturation. And then, of course, an important aspect would be, for instance, if I would be a principal and I would hire a teacher, every teacher would have to sign that they is ready for further formation. That the teachers themselves have to be trained, not in their subject. If she is mathematics teacher or biology teacher, then in the subject she brings her credentials along, and she also can go to some further training, but this is her responsibility. However, how she deals with the children, how she guides a classroom, how she transfers her knowledge so that the children do not only learn for the intellect, but learn, as our father always said, on the value of word, truth, and value. And the value transformation is that what forms the personality. And many teachers will have to train that they see that in their subject there are value elements which also have to be taught. So far to educational institutions. One more to social works. Okay, let me something about social works. It goes without saying that in a country like this, which is one of the richest countries in the world on the one hand, and still has an alarmingly high percentage of population below poverty level, where in so and so many states, I forgot the number, the states in the country itself are poorer or just as poor as some of those Central Africa states which are on the lowest level of poverty. This is almost intolerable. In any ways, it is a tremendous challenge. Something in this level has to be done, and not only for social awareness, which is one aspect, but also in social works. See? However, I would say we should move away from the mere concept of, if I say it in quotation marks, of feeding the poor. That means this is handing out charity. As long as you do that, you keep them just as well as dependent. The actual challenge in social work is that you educate the people in such a way that they afterwards are themselves capable of providing for themselves and have a meaningful standard of living. This is why all social works, whatever we do, should always have a very strong pedagogical dimension. This is why we start with Children's Village, because in a children's village, there the pedagogical process must be emphasized. But it could be in any other social work. See, I'm not sold only on Children's Village. It can be also in social work in a low-income area where one of ours works as a social worker. Why not? But he would have to see not only that they get the money, and not only that the organization is right, and not only that the government takes care of them, but rather that the people are formed in such a way that they are capable of providing themselves, which is, for instance, on a pedagogical level, to see how they get away from all kinds of addictions, that the men are, if possible, able to overcome their alcoholism, that the relationship between husband and wife comes on a different level, that they all grow in the capacity of loving and therefore make a greater satisfaction with themselves, and therefore have a different style of living, although they still might be poor. See? That means you can also live with greater dignity or with less dignity on a poor level. Not that you would tell them that they have to stay there, they'd have to get out. But one of the means of getting out is not only coming from the outside, it's also their own capacity, their own resources to activate them. And this is the pedagogical dimension of all social work. And there we should become specialists. Maybe also one important point of inculturation as far as social work is concerned is the financial aspect. Predominantly, all the social works in India, they live from the dollar and from the euro. And maybe this is also inculturation, that a country like India is brought to, is educated to, that they have responsibility for their own people and that they begin to share, and that therefore such social works are supported within their own population and not only from the outside. And as far as social work is concerned, but also as far as schools especially are concerned, let me add one more thing. Since we are post-centralized matrix of a movement, one of the most important aspects to have in such things is that we educate and form lay people within the movement who are capable of doing it. That we are the ones who inspire. We don't necessarily have these institutions. We can also inspire other people to do these institutions, and we are the inspirators. Like in Latin America, the schools. The schools were the hands of the lay people, and then the fathers, they were the inspirators. They helped to find the criteria, they supported in pedagogy and everything, but let the lay people do it if possible. See? Things like that. And that can be in social works, and that they also be in school education, in any of these institutions. It can be that, or that you come to a good cooperation with people formed in the same mentality and the same spirituality. That would be the ideal thing, that we pull all on the same, in the same direction, on the same string. So far to inculturation as far as institutions are concerned.